Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talk about Kivy language. So Kivy language file creates the widget and also defines their behavior. So widget can be text, it can be animation, it can be your button, it can be anything that is responsible for making your graphical user interface of your app. So these have the extension that is a .kv. So the file that have the extension .kv are the Kivy file. So they help separate the logic from your presentation. However, it is possible to do everything with the Python at the expense of having the more code. So it is harder to follow the logic. That means you can just implement without using this Kivy language, but it will just make your code more lengthier and more bulkier. So using the Kivy language helps you just to separate the logic, that is basically the Python code, from the presentation. So presentation is basically created by the Kivy language and the logic is implemented using the Python. And the Kivy language file is used to create the graphical user interface elements and define their behavior with the Python code. So it helps us separate the logic, that is our Python, from the presentation Kivy, and this file have the extension that is .kv. So the main Kivy file is always searched by the code. It has the same name as the app subclass, except there is no ending app in it and everything is lowercase basically. So just remember that Kivy file name is always in the lowercase. An additional Kivy file may be loaded with the help of a builder class, and this can be implemented in upcoming lecture. So next is the Kivy file name. So example is here. If you have the app name that is hello world app, so if you just create the Python file that is with the name hello world app.py, so basically your app name will be, just remove that py extension and your app name will be hello world app, and your main Kivy file should be same as your app name, that is your hello world, and just remove this app before just saving that and just put the extension that is .kv in order to represent that this file is a Kivy file. So addition, that is addition, the Kivy file may be loaded with the help of a builder class. That means you don't have to just explicitly tell this name. You can also give any name to this Kivy file if you make use of this builder class. So it is really important to know about the builder class. With the help of a builder class, you can give any name of your Kivy file. So in the Python file, note we are just importing only one user interface elements, that is a box layout. So basically we'll create a class which will inherit the functionality of a box layout. This class is called the root class. The reason we are not importing a button class even though we are displaying the button is that all the button code has been moved to the Kivy file. So if the interface is moved from the Python to the Kivy file, you don't have to just place that code, that is if in this case we have a button code, so you don't have to put this button code in the Python file and just remove that from the Python file and just move it to the Kivy file, and thus the Python file does not need to have the button name in its namespace. So basically you can have a separation between the logic and your presentation with the help of your Kivy language, because you can just put all the element of your user interface in this Kivy file and your logic on the Python file. So let me say that is we have first of all as an import statement, that is we'll just import a box layout from this interface, that is kivy.uix.boxlayout, and we'll also import this app in order to make the build basically our app. So it has the method that is used to create the tree of our widget. So basically this app module will be responsible in order to track all the widget that can be either button, that can be layout, that can be text. So it will just track all of these widget and help you just traverse through that widget with the help of this build method. So we'll just implement that in the upcoming lecture. So first thing that you need to do while creating the Kivy application is you just import some of these UIX elements, and this statement that is importing the app from this interface is essential in every app. So next is to create the root class. So basically this is the root class which inherits from the box layout class. So if you are using box layout, that means it should be inherit from the box layout. If you are using widget, it should be inherit from the widget. If you are using the stack layout, it should be stack layout over here. That is basically inheritance. That means you can use all the method, all the attribute, attribute of this box layout inside your my box class, which is basically our root class. So it has a two function which will be called from the Kivy file after the button is clicked. Note the word return is not necessary, that you just put here hello and world, and this word is not necessary. Basically you might put a blank line instead of just a return over here to make it meaningful and more clear. So next is our application class. So in this application class, what you do is you just create a class with the name of your Python file, that is in this case hello world, and you just put the app at the last. That means this app should be kept with your Python file name or a module name, and this A should be always capital over here, and it should be inherit from this app. So in order to inherit, you just put inside this parenthesis, and we will make the use of one of the most important method while developing this Kivy application, that is our build method. So build method will just create the tree. Basically tree will be created by using this method, which will have the node as in your, that is root node, which is basically your my box or a box layout over here, and the children will be your all the widget, that can be either button, that can be your text or whatever. So this is really important method, and we will use this method all the time of making the application of Kivy. So next is our main code. So we'll just implement using this pattern, which is name equal main, and we'll just call this hello world app, which is basically our application class. We just make the object of that class, and we will just make use of this run method in order to run this application or the run our app. So basically these are the three code or three class that are important. So first you just start with importing your module, second is you start writing your code, that is root class, and next is your application class. So you have only the build method in your application class, and you return your main class or a root class over here, which is my box. In this case you have here a my box, so this should be returned in the application class, and in the main code you just call this object of our app or our application class, and you just call this method from your object of the application class, and run module is your entry point of your application. All the run or all the application start from this method. So you just have application ready with these three classes. So we'll just see how to create a Kivy file. So Kivy file defines a rule for our root class. All the rule are in the angular bracket or angle bracket. Since my box class, if you see here, this was our my box class, and this root class has all our widget, so that can be defined or that can be styled using this Kivy file. And basically button will be arranged horizontally, the default orientation. Button have the different property. All this property, all of this arrangement can be defined within this Kivy file. And in the example that we have here, this is the example of a Kivy file. In this file we have just a text and an on press, and the text indicate what is displayed, and on press is called whenever we just press our mouse. So we have a text, and this is the text that will be rendered on the button, and on press is the event, or you can also use on released in case of this attribute, and you can just use this attribute when the click occurs on the particular widget. So in this case the widget is button. That means when the button is pressed, it will just say hello here, and basically that means the hello will be called, or the world function that is in the root class. Basically this method would be called when you just press this button over here. So basically you create the user interface in your Kivy file, and you just implement your logic in your root class. So application class is responsible to just build or render your graphical user interface, and main code is responsible to run your app, and root class is responsible to generate your logic or to just implement your logic based on your Kivy file. So Kivy file will only contain the user interface. So how to make this Kivy file? So Kivy file will be the name that is all in the lowercase, same as your module name. So you have hello world as a module, that means you just put here hello world all in lowercase, and .kv extension is for the Kivy file. So you always start with this angular bracket in order to reference any layout, any reference to the button or any widget. So if you just reference this my box over here, which is basically your class here, if you see in this my box, which is our class, that means you put that in this angular bracket and you just give the colon in order to reference to the attribute of this my box. So basically we want to add the two button, that means you just call this button over here and give the attribute that is text and on press in order to define the button. So the text is basically the text that can be rendered in this button, and on press is the event or attribute that is going to be pressed when this button is clicked basically. So this is the calling of the hello with an argument. So basically it will just call this root. So root here is basically our root class. So this class is referring to this root object over here, and this hello is referring to this method that is here inside this my box. So it will just call hello if you just press this button, and this button will call world function that is inside this root class, that is this world method will be called when this button is pressed, and this is basically your Kivy file. So you just make all the user interface that is from the button and referencing your just layout or text or any event, that can be your animation, that can be your on release event, on touched up event, on touched down event, all that can be defined within this Kivy file. And we'll see the example of this Kivy file in upcoming lecture where we just make an animation and multiple projects. So see you in the next one.